Hello.
Hello.
So we always start. Hello.
I can't.
So some people on Patreon asked us to do a little video about our journey, the fiance visa process, and just it's a whole long story, and we've only been talking about it on Patreon so far.
Yeah.
So not a lot of people know that I'm in New York, Erin's in New York,
Yeah,
we're engaged, we're getting married.
We're through a large chunk of the process.
That we've been going through for
over a year.
Yeah, over a year.
Yeah. So, hello.
Hello. We're here to talk about it.
We are.
I think we can go into like chronological order.
Yeah. Just talking about our process and stuff.
Yeah. And I don't want to make it like a 2-hour video.
Yeah.
But we'll try to be snappy.
It was the first kind of step in the process, which was something we had to do before we actually started the process so that the actual process wouldn't have any hangups. And that is
the name change. And I have a podcast on that, so I'm not gonna go into the details at all. But basically, I wanted to come into this kind of new life, new step, new episode with just being myself. And I knew that my dead name would really hold me back and make me feel anxious and dysphoric and bad about a lot of new beginnings.
And I feel like on top of that, all of the documents require you to put your name so many times. And the visa, everything would be under the name that is your legal name. So it was important to Simon and to us that was what it needed to be before we even started the process, so that we wouldn't have any hang-ups. Simon's name would be Simon on everything, and that would just be what it was.
So basically the timeline was I've applied for the name change in December, and then it took us a month, me specifically a month, to change all my documents, or a month and a half or two.
It was like a month and a half too.
Yeah. 1 to 2 months to change my passport, my travel passport, my health cards, everything. Birth certificate, work certificates, just it's a whole lot of things.
Everything.
And then we could finally fill out the k-1 fiance visa application.
Right.
Because we've been engaged for a year by then.
Right. We'd been engaged, for a year.
Yeah.
So that was finally, we were able to start once all of the documents that we would need throughout the process were updated to the new name.
So we were considering whether to have any kind of help. There are lots of websites that are fiance visa 100% approval rating.
Yeah, these third-party companies that help you put together the visa and the packets that you need to submit for the K-1 visa that we were applying for, and for other visas too, just so that people who kind of don't have any experience at all with this sort of bureaucratic process of visaing could have somebody professional who wasn't an attorney. We looked at attorneys briefly too, but who wasn't an immigration attorney, that could help you with the process, who knew what you were doing and knew the steps and could answer questions along the way. So we ended up doing that.
So we ended up doing rapid visa. Short disclaimer, we probably don't recommend rapid visa.
It depends. I think rapid visa, which is the third party kind of thing we used, is good for if you don't want to do any of the work, or you don't have time to do any of the actual work and research yourself. We were so worried about this process that we did a lot of research beforehand and during and throughout.
And I think the thing for us was that here's the thing, the application process takes forever, but if you make a mistake in your documents, simply fill out something wrong, it could make the process so much longer, because apart from them accepting it and looking at it, 3 different places look at it, National Visa Center, USCIS, Moscow Consular Embassy, and all of them. Apart from just that, you also get different parties sending you update your documents, and then you have 6 more months of waiting.
Right.
So we didn't want that.
It's a very it's very convoluted, and it really is detail specific. So if you make a little typo or a little error, you can't really do that, because it'll slow everything down and potentially cost you the visa.
Massively.
And so for that reason, after all the research we did, we went with rapid visa, and it was good because they kind of helped us fill out all of our forms, but at that point we had done so much research that we didn't need that assistance so much.
And the assistance we did need when we sent them private messages, they didn't really help with, because they had a copy paste response to everyone. Like we would ask a very specific question. For
To our
instance,
case, yeah.
I changed my name to Aaron's surname because we knew we were getting married, and we were like, let's do it
Now.
to begin with.
Yeah.
Yeah. And we were like, is this going to be a problem? Because it does seem a little weird. We're not married yet, but we already have the same surname, you know.
People might get confused.
Yeah. And they would be like, fill out the application like in your passport or something.
Yeah.
Like,
They
it's
wouldn't
just a
answer
copy-paste.
really the question very well, and it was hard to communicate with them and get any sort of feedback that was useful.
So basically we applied in April?
Yeah, I think we sent it got accepted, or it arrived where it needed to on April 10th.
April 10th. And so the shortest period of time it can take for them to look at your application and send you an approval or disapproval notice, whatever it is, 3 months. It's the shortest period of time you can get it in. If you've done everything right, just like no hiccup anywhere.
Yeah.
And we got it, the approval notice on July 10th.
Yeah.
Exactly. So
April, May, June, July.
Yeah.
Math.
Exactly 3 months after.
Yeah.
Which we were.
And I was at work when I got it because the letter came to my parents' house because that's the permanent address. I was moving all across Orlando at this point. So it was sent to my parents' address. My mom opened it. I was at work. I was on the shuttle to work. And I got it, and I was crying.
And I was crying.
And the tunnel,
We were all crying.
It was a nice thing to get, especially so quickly. That doesn't happen.
And we say quickly. We did like wait
3 months,
like sitting just very tensely for 3 whole months.
because it's hard to plan when you don't know the timeline.
And also, we put in so many savings and money into the application process because it is very expensive. And you can look it all up on like their website, like the prices. But we couldn't,
especially because
travel to
Rapid Visa is an extra additional fee that is quite hefty. That we
$500.
it was between $500 and $700 to have their assistance. Yeah. Like I said, if you've got the money and you don't want to worry too much about it, it's good. But we invested in it because we thought it would be like an investment of security,
and
it was to an extent, but we wouldn't do it again that way.
Probably not.
So after the approval, the next steps were...
Yeah, the next steps were mostly on my end because they were like, you're approved, but we need to now send it to the National Visa Center so that they can send it to the Moscow consul or embassy. And from there, I could start doing the medical exam and I could sign up for a...
Interview.
I think July, August, we definitely waited with no more emails, no more information. It's like a lot of waiting and being stressed about something going wrong.
Right, because you get approved, but then your documents have to be shipped to the other country, and then that took so long.
And you can't really plan anything while you're waiting. Not like going here, not traveling to see each other, because you're like saving up all the money so that you don't like run out of it for the process.
Right.
And
because you changed your passport, your old passport had the tourist visa to the US in it, but this new passport with your new name, it didn't. So they couldn't have visited anyways.
The National Visa sent us an email. It was like, yeah, you're fine. We sent it to the Moscow consular embassy, and then the Moscow embassy sent me an email being like, okay, cool. And then the problem is that with the tensions between America and Russia, there are very few slots for interviews. For tourist visa, there are none. And there haven't been any for a while. But for like fiance visas, they have a couple. But still, I was so stressed. I was like,
because of all of the sanctions, like and the firings at the embassies of just like diplomats.
Yes,
that have been happening.
Just
so
like
waiting lists are long. There's fewer people there to process.
Other video, just the sanctions and how stressful they are. Anyway, so then I got an interview date, but before that I had to do a medical exam, which is basically I'm not on any drugs because I peed in a cup, and they were like, good, and then you have no tuberculosis, you are welcome to the United States.
Yeah,
cool. So
but that was scary because for a bit we thought you were gonna have to get like 12 vaccines or something.
yeah.
Because they
I still
didn't have
might
like
have to
a
have
lot
them.
of records of vaccines and stuff, and if they were in like an old name, and like if it wasn't, then it was like this whole thing that was like we weren't sure if they would make you get more shots.
I would get all of those 20,000 vaccines if I had to, but we didn't want to.
No,
obviously.
no, because getting like 12 shots in one day for a medical exam for a boy who
This size of a boy
who sometimes doesn't have the
An
strongest
immune
of immune system. It's not something we wanted to do, so luckily we didn't have to yet. And hopefully we will continue not to have to.
So I got my medical exam records. I took them with me. I was supposed to give them to a officer at the, how is it called? When you go through customs officer upon my arrival. Mm-hmm. So then I had an interview date, and I went.
And we snagged an interview date. Like what was it, October 15th?
Something like that.
But like a slot opened up.
Yes.
And it like Simon was there to see it and sees it as soon as, because like it's hard to book. Yeah. So that we were really lucky that we got one so soon.
And so I got in there. I was super stressed because I had family issues at the time, and my mom was making my life very difficult. And at the same time, I had to prepare all the documents. I made this whole relationship folder. Wait.
Let's get it.
Again, there's like a whole stack of documents. Erin had to send first, and I had to come in with to the interview.
Right. And there's also like, because, I mean, I could have been able to sponsor Simon on my own to some extent, but we were sure that it would slow down the process. And so we got my parents to also be co-sponsors for the visa. And so that was a whole other thing with taxes. And so we have this binder of all of our stuff that we needed.
There's even a page with fan art.
Yeah.
It was so good. Fan art. Because like our relationship is a little public.
Yeah.
And I thought that would make them feel like, they're.
Oh, that's a real thing.
That's
if other people know about it, it must be a real thing. So
yes, I was like super stressed, but then I went and I said, you do biometrics and then you just wait. And then I read so many articles that were like, they're gonna ask you questions like, what kind of penny your fiance was wearing on the 5th day of your second trip.
Right. What do the curtains in your partner's childhood home look like?
What is the name of their car? I don't
like they're trying to get you got. Like they're trying to like suss you out.
Yeah, because they don't want you there.
Right.
And it's as simple as that. No one wants immigrants. So, and then I was like stressing, and I was sitting there for 3 whole hours just waiting in line, and then I finally come to the interview, and I'm like, there's the lady, who is the officer, and she's like, have you ever been married before? I said no. What about your fiance? No. And then she asked me something like, how did you meet? And Tumblr, which is blah blah blah. And I was like, you can take it. Take my folder.
Take the folder. Look, we've got the proof.
And then she was like, okay, welcome to America. And I just exploded.
Yeah, it wasn't too many like questions at all. Like apparently we had like very sufficient enough proof in our thing that there wasn't too much of a question whether we were real or not. So it was just kind of the basic questions.
Yeah, just
and then
the most basic
Simon was out.
Yeah, I was out. And I called Erin. It was very, very cold, and I called Erin. My hand was like freezing.
Yeah.
And I went to the coffee shop, and I like told you about all that. And so that's
I was up all night because it was like morning.
Yeah.
And so it was night for me, like middle of the night.
That 8
and
hour
I was
difference.
I couldn't sleep, and I was like waiting by my phone. It was like 4:30 in the morning when Simon finally called, and I was like
And the next day they're like, you can come to the Pony Express office and get your documents with your visa
sometime in October.
Yeah.
Mid-late October. And then it was a matter of deciding when they would come here, and that was that. So it was just like a hurry up and wait thing, and then as soon as we got the yes, it was like go go go. And that was a lot because I was like working at the time, and I didn't know when I would have to leave because we weren't planning on living in Orlando. And so it was like this game of like, when is it gonna happen? What will we do when it does?
What am I good? My parents were selling the flat where I had a share in, and they were like, you can't leave, you have to stay here, this gay stuff is a sin or whatever. And I was like, no, I'm leaving.
Yeah, it was a lot
Goodbye.
at once. So November 13th was the date that you finally got here.
12th was my sister's birthday. We celebrated it like the little goblins that we are. And then I came here and I came to Atlanta.
Right. And I drove up that day from Orlando. I left Orlando on that same day. So we were both like going to Atlanta because that's where my parents live and that's where I'm from.
But before that, Aaron did more things.
Oh, yeah. So once we got the yes.
Oh, I'm sorry.
It's okay. Once we got the yes and knew that this was happening, we knew we wanted to be in New York. We knew that's where we wanted to start our journey in life together in the United States of America. So I did a like speed mini trip of like 2 days to New York. I came with my parents. We looked at apartments. I tried to set up some job interviews. I didn't manage to do that.
Because it's hard to do even one thing in 2 days and like...
Yeah.
We came with zero. We have no friends here, no one to stay with, no jobs, no flats.
We just wanted to be here in New York. And so we did what we could. I planned a little trip up here to look at places, look at areas, see where we might want to live. I sent Simon all the snaps, all that kind of stuff is also on Patreon, some of the different apartments that we saw.
We were trying, like, from across the world, trying to be like, is this flat nice?
Right, it's so hard to do that when you're not together.
And the lease is for a year, so, like, someone has to make the decision to, like, go for a place, even that if the other person haven't even seen it.
Right, and so we found a place that I thought would work. We both agreed on it. It was beautiful. And we applied for it and everything seemed like it was going okay. And then
a week
later, you were here.
Yeah, I was coming in because we were like, we have a flat.
Yeah, we have a flat. We're good to go. We have a place. It's just a matter of me finding a job now because they can't have a job.
Legally, I'm not allowed. There was a
with this
question
visa.
Like that
yeah, you
Instagram.
can't. We'll get to it.
Yeah, we'll get
it's
to
complicated. So I was looking for a job also at this time while we were looking at flats and everything. And we found this perfect place. I applied for it. Everything was going good. We had a guarantor, which was like extra security. Everything was lined up and okay. And we got through the whole process, paid all the application fees, did everything. And then it fell through.
I think mostly because I am a Russian citizen and I can't work yet, and they were like, where are you gonna study, what are you gonna do, how are you gonna work, how are you gonna provide the security of me getting money every month? And we were like, we can't really,
but we had a guarantor. That's the thing, is like that was our
to work, but it didn't.
Right, our guarantor was also out of state. There's a lot of like little like things that we just didn't know coming into like this whole rental process in New York.
So much harder to rent in New York than any other place I've ever been in. Moscow is a huge city as well. Never seen anything like that ever.
Yeah, I think it's a combination of New York, but also
You have to have a credit score
US.
that's like ridiculously good. You have to have a job lined up. You have to have like so much money.
Yeah. So there's a lot of things that go into it, and we missed the mark on some of those things. Mainly, we think it's just because there was an out-of-state guarantor. One of the occupants could not and was not able to financially provide for any of the rent. And I also, even though I was employed at the time, I'm still employed. It was just like a weird, it didn't work.
It wasn't enough.
It wasn't enough. So that sucked because we had like started dreaming of this place and like planning and like,
because we planned so much so that we had a car from your grandparents to put all our stuff in and drive to New York in a day when they sent us the message that it wasn't gonna happen.
Like we had the moving van booked, we got all this stuff ready to go, and then like the day before we were supposed to go and move in, they were like, actually no. We still came up the time we were supposed to come up to move into the other place, and we stayed in a hotel.
Just alone, without the truck, just like
it was just us. We flew up, we stayed in a hotel. That weekend we saw a million places.
We saw some places ourselves, then a broker reached out to us, and we knew it was extra cost, but then we were already here, so we needed a place to live. Because like staying in a hotel is even more expensive.
Yeah.
So we were like, okay.
So, and also the comfort, same thing with kind of rapid visa is just like, they know what they're doing.
Yes.
And more so than Rapid Visa kind of knew what they were doing. Yes. They know what they're doing. They know exactly our specific situation. They can vouch for us. They can coach us through a process so we can present ourselves in the best possible way so that renters and landlords will
actually
of us.
Yeah. So that situation doesn't happen again.
Yeah. So we saw a lot of places. We ended up going through the broker company with one place that we ended up getting on the Upper West Side, and it's lovely. And
then we had the Thanksgiving. It was just such a rush, and we just wanted like a second to have a good time and make some vegetarian Thanksgiving dishes, and
but we were moved in by Thanksgiving. It was all good. Also during that little trip, I had applied to one job in New York,
and you got it.
Yes. Yes, I got it. But we were here in the hotel looking for flats, scrambling. I got a message that was like, we'd love to interview you for the one job that you applied for. And I was like, beautiful. So I went to the interview while we were still in the hotel. I got the job while we were still in the hotel. We were in the hotel for maybe 4 days. So everything happened super quickly. Like we got an apartment, we got a job, everything happened all at once.
It all happened within 3 or 4 days.
Because I think just New York in general, everything kind of happens. There's an immediacy to when things happen. You can't plan too far in advance because nobody works like that here. Like you can't try and find an apartment a month in advance because you're not gonna have any luck. People put their things on the market and they're gone. So
even this flat, it was like And so the next step for us would be to apply for adjustment of status, because I can't work, as you already said, because I am not a permanent resident and I don't have a certain not privileges, but certain things anyone can do.
Right.
So I need adjustment of status, which would make me a green card holder. I need a work permit, which would allow me to actually work here and have a social security number. And I need a travel permit, which would allow me to go outside of the US, because for now I cannot do that due to the fact that my K-1 visa allows you to come in once. You can't even come in. Yeah, single entry. So I'm still like, banks don't allow me to get like a credit card or anything like that because I don't have a social security number. So I'm like still not on thin ice or anything, but I still have a lot of things.
Like you can't go very far because you need this to happen.
And I've never been not a citizen in the place I live in before, so it's kind of hard. And
it's very restrictive.
And before we can apply for adjustment of status, we need to get married, which we're doing soon. Stay tuned. We'll tell you more about it later.